One day, a city of 30,000 people just stopped. No war destroyed it, no fire burned it down, no plague wiped it out, at least not one anyone can prove. The streets simply emptied, the temples went quiet, and within a few generations, the largest city in North America before Columbus was gone, swallowed by grass and forgotten by almost everyone. You've probably never heard its name. That's the strange part. This city was bigger than London at the time, bigger than Paris. It had suburbs, plazas, a skyline of earthen pyramids, and something that looked a lot like a calendar built out of wood. Archaeologists call it Cahokia, and to this day, nobody can fully explain why it disappeared. Let's go back to the beginning. Around the year 1050, near what is now St. Louis, Missouri, something remarkable happened. A small farming settlement exploded into a metropolis. Almost overnight, in archaeological terms, thousands of people moved in. They built mounds of packed earth so massive that one of them, now called Monk's Mound, covers more ground than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Think about that for a second. No wheels, no metal tools, no draft animals, just baskets, backs, and an enormous amount of coordinated will. At its peak, Cahokia may have housed more people than any city in what is now the United States would hold again until the 1800s. That's not a typo. For nearly 600 years, nothing in North America came close. So what were they doing with all that space? Archaeologist Timothy Pockettad has spent decades studying Cahokia, and his excavations suggest this wasn't just a farming town that got lucky. It was planned, deliberately. The plazas were built for massive public gatherings. The mounds were aligned with the sun. Wooden circles, nicknamed Woodhenge by researchers, tracked solstices with startling precision. This wasn't a village that stumbled into greatness. This was architecture with intention. This was a society that watched the sky and built a city around it. But here's the weird part. For all its ambition, Cahokia left almost no written record. No inscriptions, no king's name carved into stone. Everything we know comes from dirt, bones, and the layout of the land itself, which means every answer about Cahokia is really an educated guess dressed up as a fact, and the biggest guess of all is why it ended. By around 1200, Cahokia was already changing. Some neighborhoods were abandoned. A massive wooden stockade nearly 2 miles long went up around the city's center. That's not a wall you build when things are going well. That's a wall you build when you're afraid of something or someone. Then by around 1350, the population had crashed. By 1400, Cahokia was essentially empty. A city that once held tens of thousands of people was reduced to scattered families and silence. So what happened? Climate scientist Larry Benson analyzed ancient flood and drought patterns in the region and found something striking. Around the time Cahokia began its decline, the area was hit by a series of severe droughts. Crops failed. Floods followed the droughts, wrecking the fields all over again. If your entire food system depends on predictable seasons, and the seasons stop being predictable, that's not a minor inconvenience. That's an extinction-level problem for a city. But drought alone might not explain everything. Archaeologist Sissel Schroeder has pointed to another possibility hiding in plain sight. All those wooden buildings, all that construction required an enormous amount of timber. Cutting down forests at that scale doesn't just remove trees, it changes how rain drains, how soil holds together, how floods behave downstream. In other words, Cahokia may have partly engineered its own environmental crisis just by building itself. Sound familiar? It should. Because that same pattern, a growing population straining its own resources until the system buckles, is a story humans have repeated again and again, just usually with better plumbing. There's also the social side of the collapse. That 2-mile stockade wasn't decoration. Something was creating enough tension that Cahokia's leaders felt the need to fortify the heart of the city. Maybe it was outside conflict. Maybe it was internal power struggles. Maybe as resources tightened, trust between neighbors tightened right along with them. Wait, it gets even stranger. Some researchers believe the abandonment wasn't sudden at all, but a slow bleed. Families left in waves, not all at once. Others think there may have been a final, faster exodus once the food system truly broke. The honest answer is that we don't fully know, and anyone who tells you they do is skipping the fine print. Here's where everything changes, though, because this isn't just an ancient mystery, it's a mirror. Cahokia grew fast, built big, reshaped its landscape to support that growth, and then ran headfirst into the limits of what that landscape could give back. No war, no single villain, just ambition outpacing sustainability one dry season at a time. You live in cities that do the same thing, just at a different scale. Concrete instead of packed earth, power grids instead of floodplains. The same basic tension is still there, quietly humming underneath every skyline. How much can a system take before it stops giving back? Cahokia's mounds are still standing today just outside St. Louis. Tourists walk up Monk's Mound without knowing they're standing on top of what was once the biggest city on the continent. Grass grows where 30,000 people used to live, argue, trade, worship, and watch the sun rise over wooden circles built to track it. The city didn't vanish because of some ancient curse or a secret nobody wants you to know. It vanished the way most things vanish, slowly, then all at once, for reasons more human than mysterious. And so the next time you hear about a city that disappeared overnight, remember this. It probably didn't happen overnight at all. It happened one dry season, one bad harvest, one uneasy neighbor at a time, until one day the people who were still watching simply stopped writing the story down. And that's the part that should really stay with you.